did a lot of work on your research, and as Nani says, spoken about that as she went and found out what was happening through the local NGO and what was happening on the ground. When you went into your research, what did you discover?
Where do I start? First of all, if I could just thank a few key people. For my blackbirding research, one of my main interviewees was the Member of Parliament from the opposition side, which is Ali Kimbia. And he was one of my contacts because Nani had showed me his maiden speech that he did in Parliament. So when we met, we sat down for hours. And even till today, the descendants still find difficulty, with the situation that they've sort of been thrown into over the last couple of decades. For example, part of their fight is we were taken. They were one of the cases where most of them were taken by force or deceived to go onto the boat and onto the ship just to show them, and then they were forced down into this place where they were kept until they got to Fiji. But it's also today they're still facing difficulty because they don't belong anywhere. They've been given settlements to settle in, but it's the constant, one of the key points that he sort of drove in is we've done our bit for Fiji without any choice of our own, but we still have not been recognized for what we've contributed to the country. And that's blackbirding. When you talk about girmitias, which is one of the reasons I've actually focused on the women, because yes, everyone that came through in the girmitias era, they all went through really atrocious and just, it's unthinkable when you think about it today, what they went through. It wasn't just by coercion, it was also their food ration. I mean, some of them died of starvation because of the food ration that they were given. And even in their food, their lodging, their food ration, this was all taken from whatever meager earnings that they had, right? But the focus on the women was constantly trying to protect themselves, but not having the freedom or the ability to, from when they were taken to when they're working at night to even when they're trying to rest. That still doesn't come for them. If you notice on Butakode, we focus specifically on women, not to sort of say that the other gender didn't go through those, but the women went through so much, especially if they were single women. So these were information that the more I learned about it, and this information was with Kirti Sharma. She does a 16-episode journey of Fiji Girmitia from the place they were taken all the way to where they reside today. And Kirti, I will always be thankful to Ali Kimbe and Kirti for helping me get this information to try and create the stories. It was Kirti that told me the information about how men were sold for 45 rupees and women were sold for 55 rupees. So you can imagine that a lot of recruiters were going for women because they were getting paid more. And then today's modern day trafficking in person, the few that have allowed me to speak to them about it, some of them didn't, they were just relaying how they were taken by force, not really recognizing that was trafficking in person. But one thing that really stood out for me for modern day trafficking is the fact that a few of them said the same thing. Even when we try and go back into society, it's the closest people around us that shun us and push us away. So, Vijay, it's sort of like you can't help but feel compelled to do something.
It's sad, actually.
Yeah.
If you are talking about there is a victim, and if you're saying there's many victims in Fiji through not their own doings, and if others are trying or they are trying to do something right eventually, that they are then ostracized.
Yes.
And that is the reality in Fiji.
Reality.
That's what you show.
Yeah.
And does that concern you?
Oh my gosh.
We are supposed to be the friendliest people on earth.
Yeah. And it's again the lack of information that we as a society, we don't have that kind of information. The only thing we see is this particular individual is participating in this act we don't want to be associated with him or her. So it's just without finding out what's happening, without understanding what's happening, it's so easy for us to push them aside. But also the way that, yes, society shuns some of them, some members of society, but society also has the power to change it just by creating that dialogue.
It starts with the family, as you said, those closest, most closest first. We'll talk about that in a bit. Now, Nanise, there's different terms, of course, and you're an expert, you've done a lot of research. Do you believe human trafficking, sex trafficking, child trafficking are all seen as a taboo subject in Fiji? And why do you think that is the case?
I think I do believe, from my personal opinion, that it is a taboo subject. One thing that I wanted to raise, we had a discussion at a workshop, and one of the NGOs that we were with actually stated it's not necessary, yes, it's the culture of silence, but it's the culture of not reporting cases, not reporting that something seems wrong. I just don't know what to say about it, so I won't report it. It's that concern of, if I do report it, there will be more responsibility on me. There'll be a responsibility on myself, my family, my community. And so that culture of silence continues to stand in our communities, stand in our households, because of the responsibility that it weighs on that individual and that family. And so when we talk about human trafficking, we're just now, I believe it was Fiji Women's Crisis Center who just started raising awareness on rape. Now we have people that are able to discuss what rape is, define what it is. Human trafficking, still a bit distant. People have yet to understand it wholly, specifically. And so I think there's so much work that we have to do. And in order for us to do that, it's to create awareness that it is here in Fiji.